Oh, God, hi guys. Sorry for that sound, but that sound, that's how I feel. That's entirely how I feel. Oh, fucking hell. The yo-yo of heart, mind, soul with mental health. Feelings of self-worth, no self-worth, guilt, guilt-free, a failure, a burden, a patient. So basically, I had a plan about 24 hours ago. I thought, brilliant, I'm going to do a mental health download about the positivities of what happened for me on Sunday. And on Sunday, nothing's changed in any of our circumstances. We're all still in the aftermath of losing Chi-Chi, horrible. We're all still in this horrendous situation that poor Hannah, Nadia and Hannah and all of her friends are just in this limbo stage. My mum's situation has arguably got a little bit worse in the last week. And yet on Sunday, I wanted to share with you, because I think it's really important to share the ups as well as the downs, that I had a really odd day, and I did vlog it a little bit, and I shared it with shared about it with Nadia, and that was that I had a really extraordinarily odd, almost out-of-body experience for the majority of Sunday. Certainly once we'd left the house and we headed out and we had to do various things. Nadia had to go to the hospital, I went into town, I needed to then end the day coming back via my mum's and stuff like that, but we took in a film, I took in some art, I walked, I thought, I wrote, I strolled, it was a Sunday. We weren't creating any content for the channel. I decided not to edit my film. And I had a day of, which I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not being, what's the word, sort of melodramatic in saying this. I had a day of something I don't think I've ever had. It's why it was so strange, and it's why when I first sat down with Nadia for lunch and I said to her, I've had the most kind of weirdest experience. She was like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? I felt guilt-free in every single step I took that day. I didn't feel answerable. I wasn't thinking of everything I did in terms of what I wasn't doing. I wasn't using the should, could, would, or what ifs, you know, i.e. I should be doing this, I could be doing this, if I was in a different, I would be doing this, and what if I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking, I wasn't really thinking, I was just doing what felt right minute to minute. For some reason, London had that sense about it on Sunday where it was a little bit kind of empty, the weather was shit. So it wasn't that kind of same, you know, London can be a really weird manifestation of mental health. London is a mental health metaphor. And it was kind of strangely calm for central London on Sunday. But I felt no guilt. I went and saw some art at the Courtauld. I sat on a bench and watched the boats go by. I had a sandwich. I had a coffee. I walked. I then read. I bought some postcards, art cards, and I just kind of hung out with me. And I knew I was going to my mum's in the evening. I knew my girls were all okay. And I knew that Nadia was, admittedly, you know, she's in a constant kind of turmoil in terms of what's going on with Hannah. But I also knew she was with friends. So everyone felt all right. But I wasn't even thinking, and I wasn't thinking, oh, they're all okay and they're all fine, therefore I can be. I wasn't like that. I just felt it without having to actively make myself think it. And I've never felt it before. I've literally, I don't think, since a child, but then even when I think back to childhood, I'm not entirely sure that even as a child, I had a guilt-free period of time. And I mean, I will have done, because all kids do. They, you know, you're in your zone, aren't you? You're not thinking about things. But why do I feel guilty about everything? Anyway, so the contrast of that is I had that day and it felt lovely. It felt great. I just felt, I don't know, I felt there was a kind of zen about it. Roll on to today, and the last 2 days have just been absolutely fucking torrid. My heart feels like a sponge that's not had water in it for fucking years, and yet the sponge is being squeezed and twisted and trying to drain some liquid out of it. I feel tense. I feel guilty. And the guilt that I feel on a normal day-to-day basis, which I wasn't feeling on Sunday, is I should be and could be doing always more than whatever I'm doing, say, even in caring for my mum, or facilitating care for my mum, or making sure that this thing is sorted for my mum. And I've always been thinking about that in terms of my mum since a young age. And then I'm forever, and my mum isn't demanding that of me. That's just how I've been programmed for some reason. But equally with my kids. And arguably, as the girls have got older, the older girls get older, you know, they don't want that kind of involvement. They don't need that kind of involvement. And they don't make me feel, but I feel guilty if I'm not thinking of what I'm doing in terms of the girls, or in terms of how this might be a great experience for the girls, or if I'm doing this, it would be lovely if they did this, or this is a great idea for them if they do that. And maybe we could have done this differently. We should have maybe done homeschooling in that way differently, or maybe they should have been opened to more subjects. And then you come to things like friendship. I'm useless. I deny myself the fruits and intimacies of friendship because I feel quite, and again, this isn't anything that those who are closest to me, and I do have friends, have made me feel. But I feel that if I can't deliver in this way or that way, or give them this complete sense of me in this way or that way, I feel guilty. And then I feel guilty for not making the time and finding the time to nurture those friendships, because I feel guilty that I'm not throwing all of my efforts into, you know, work for the channel, the content that we create, the activism that we pursue. I'm 2/3 of the way through editing a film. It's great. It's brilliant. Everyone who's seen bits of it fucking loves it. And it's almost like an act of self-harm, though it's not conscious. I feel guilty if I ever do that, because it's I don't want to sound like a wanker, but that's my creativity. That's my art. That's what I feel outside of the kind of system. That's what I'm put here to do, is to make and tell interesting stories. But I feel guilty if I spend a day doing that. I get behind on stuff for the channel, or I get behind on stuff that me and Nadia are doing together, or I get behind on stuff with other stuff. And then Nadia says, you haven't, and look, don't get me wrong, we play it for gags. But then it's like, we haven't put the fucking blind up in the bedroom, or this chest of drawers hasn't been. And it's like, how much of this constant feeling of guilt, and yet one's getting stuff done, but it's never enough. However good you are, or I've tried to be, or I have been, or I haven't been, at being a child, a son, of being a father, of being a friend, of being a husband, there's always something better I could have been doing. Now, really early on in my relationship life, I'm gonna have to turn it on, it's fucking suddenly got really hot. Really early on, and this is the kind of thing I would go to a 12-step meeting and I would just dump this shit. And I went to a meeting last week and I dumped a load of shit. I went to another meeting 2 weeks ago and I didn't say a thing. I just cried. Just calm down for a minute because I got really, really hot. So the whole guilt thing, you know, I make lists, I get things done, we do lots of things. What is it about my head and my heart that makes me forever feel like I'm failing? And as I was just about to say, I lost my thread because I got really hot. Menopause. There was a relationship way back in the distant past where I don't even necessarily think it was the other person who created these things. I think they possibly just, the relationship itself was toxic in many different ways. I made all the mistakes that led to the end of it. But no one person is responsible for a relationship fucking up. And when I look back, I think, I allowed myself to get to a place where I had to ask permission literally, to do so many things. I mean, literally and metaphorically, had to ask permission to do this, to do that. Is it okay if I do this? Because I always felt guilty, because I'd made mistakes, because I'd done something wrong. And my problem is if I've ever done one thing wrong, I don't need anyone else. I don't need a troll to fucking have a crack at me. I am my worst fucking enemy. And then I set a much higher bar to make sure that I make amends, or I don't do it again, or I don't make it worse. And I would argue that in some of my most important intimate relationships, I've ended up losing because I've striven almost maybe too hard to make good. And I never thought as a kid that trying to make good, or really trying to make good, or over trying to make good, or be better, or acknowledge where you'd made a mistake, or acknowledge that you'd done this wrong. I never thought that doing all those things you would end up worse off emotionally. Here's an example that I can think of, one relationship in which I accepted that I'd made, say, a mistake, a second mistake, and a third mistake, born of fear, desperation, and a desire to connect more and be there. And yet I ended up being punished because me trying to make sure that person felt I was there for them made them feel stressed. So I even then accepted that, and I even tried to deal with that. And I've even tried to think to myself, okay, try not to be too much, try not to overcompensate, try not to people please too much. And so consequently, I think that thing of worrying that I could people please too much is one of the other elements of what makes me step back from friendships, from the time that those relationships need. So, wow, this is rambling. But at the end of the day, my default setting is always feeling guilty, feeling I should be doing better, I could be better, I must be better. Even when sometimes, I mean, and this isn't the case with this now, interestingly, which is why I'm doing it. Even if I go to a 12-step meeting, I'm worried if when I open my mouth, will what I'm saying be enough? I feel guilty that I'm not a good recovering alcoholic of nearly 21 years sobriety, working the steps in the way that I should be. I feel guilty. I feel guilty to the fellowship. I feel guilty to other sober people. This is madness. It's madness. I can hear it. And I had a day where I met up with Nads, and this is kind of an odd environment. I met up with Nads. She was grabbing a bite at Five Guys. Sat down opposite her, and I told her what I felt. Obviously, we caught up on all of the really important stuff about Hannah and everything else like that. And then when she said, well, how was your day? I said, I had this really odd experience. I had a guilt-free day. And I said, I've never had it, and I'm really worried. Classic me. I said, I'm really worried I'm never going to have it again. But then I said, do people live like this? Are there people who wake up and have such a kind of, and I don't mean this I'm not being judgy or pejorative, but wake up and just go, this is what I'm doing. And that's what I'm doing. Without any comparative, without any guilt, without any fear that maybe they're making the wrong decision or they should be making another decision. I feel guilty about going to bed at the wrong time because it could lead to my headache or mood the next day not being nice for those who are closest to me. I mean, what? Just trying to take you into the strange cavities of a guy who has depression, bipolar type 2, what do I have? Bipolar type 2, ADHD, ADD, huge addiction problems, compulsion problems. I'm beginning to wonder, after watching I Swear, the film about Tourette's, whether I have a kind of self-harming Tourette's-y kind of thing. You know, I even sometimes say the wrong fuck. I don't literally swear, but you know. But do you feel that? If anyone feels like this, if this is making any sense, please share your thoughts below. I'm riddled and racked with guilt. I mean, as I say, going back to my film, I'm a stone's throw away from completion, and I'm disallowing it. I feel guilty to the crew, the cast, to my sound, the guys doing the soundtrack. You know who you are. And I feel guilty because I know I need to have kind of done, but I can't. If I do it, then I feel guilty about what I'm not focusing on. And if I don't do that, I feel guilty about doing that. And then if I don't make myself clear, although I'm not feeling this right now because I know I'm not sounding clear. If I don't make myself clear in a chat about mental health, I'll feel guilty about that too. So now I'm just going to, I've just done all of the stuff for the channel. I've done some editing. I've done some stuff for Dina's channel. I've now got to run across London, and then I've got a screening, a Netflix screening. But I'm running across London to do, and this is fine, I don't mind doing this, to deliver bits and bobs that my mum needs. And I feel, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, I always look forward to seeing my mum. But I feel guilty because, and I don't know if any other carers here have this, I feel guilty because when I see her, her situation is so difficult. Weirdly, I don't think she feels how difficult I think it is. And I don't know why that is, and I don't know how that is, and I don't want it to change because that's good. But I feel guilty because I know that even though I'm taking this stuff and I'm going, I'm going to feel shit. And I'm going to feel bad, and I'm going to feel, oh, and I'm going to want to fix, and I'm going to want to help. And I know that she's not going to cooperate, and she's not going to meet, and she's not going to necessarily understand what I'm saying. And yeah. So I start with the, and I end with a,